The email arrived at 2:47 p.m. on a Monday, right between a client complaint about server latency and a reminder about my night class on tort law. Subject line, moving forward. I stared at those 2 words for maybe 10 seconds before clicking. Caroline never used corporate speak with me. We'd been married 6 years. She called things what they were: dinner, sex, arguments, money. Moving forward sounded like something her boss would say before firing someone. I'm keeping the apartment. You can crash with your parents. Please respect my space. I read it 3 times. Then I leaned back in my chair and laughed. Not the funny kind. The kind that comes when you realize someone thinks you're stupid. She was keeping the apartment. The apartment my uncle owned. The apartment where we paid exactly $700 a month because Uncle Rick liked me and hated landlord taxes. The apartment Caroline's name wasn't even on. Interesting plan. I minimized the email and opened my client's ticket. Fixed his latency issue in 4 minutes. Then I called Uncle Rick. Buckley, he said. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong, I said. I need a favor, legal favor. She cheating? Uncle Rick was 72 and had been married 4 times. He knew the sound of a man whose wife had gone sideways. Yeah, I said. Want the place empty by Friday? Thursday would be better, he grunted. I'll send the notice today. Lease violation. She's subletting to her boyfriend, right? I hadn't thought of that angle. She will be by tomorrow. Good enough. I'll have my lawyer file it. You got somewhere to stay? I'll figure it out. Stay at the Woodbridge property. 2nd floor unit's empty, keys in the lockbox. I thanked him and hung up. Then I sat there for a minute, watching the cursor blink on my screen. Caroline thought she was running the show. Cute. I just bought the script. The signs had been there for weeks, maybe months. I'd been too busy with work and law school to notice, or maybe I'd noticed and just didn't want to deal with it. Late-night texts she wouldn't explain. Credit card charges at restaurants I'd never been to. Twice she'd come home smelling like cologne that wasn't mine. Then there were the networking events. Caroline worked in pharmaceutical sales, so networking was part of the job. But these new events happened at night, in hotels, with people whose names she never mentioned. 3 weeks ago, I'd asked her directly, "Are you seeing someone?" She'd looked at me like I'd accused her of murder. Jesus, Buckley, I'm building my career. Not everything's about you. Classic deflection. I'd learned about it in my Psychology 101 elective. Make the accuser feel guilty for asking. I didn't push. I had law finals coming up, but I also started paying attention. Last Tuesday, I'd followed her to a cafe downtown. She'd told me she was meeting a client. I watched through the window as she sat across from a guy in a tailored suit, touching his hand, laughing at something he said. They left together. I didn't follow them further. I didn't need to. I knew what I was looking at. Now I opened a new browser tab and logged into our joint checking account. Caroline had made a withdrawal 2 days ago. $4,500. Cash. The memo line said, vacation fund. We hadn't talked about a vacation. I opened another tab and checked her credit card statement. 2 charges caught my eye. A luggage store in Stamford and a lingerie boutique in New Haven. $600 total. She was planning something that didn't include me. I saved screenshots of everything, emailed them to myself, then logged out. My phone buzzed. Lila. You busy? She asked. Lila Grant was the only person I'd told about Caroline. We'd worked together at a tech startup 5 years ago, before I went freelance. She'd moved into cybersecurity and still owed me for helping her pass her CISSP exam. Depends, I said. You offering whiskey or advice? Both. Meet me at Brew 30 in an hour. Brew 30 was a craft beer place near the university. Dark wood, low lighting, the kind of place where you could talk without being overheard. Lila was already at a corner table when I arrived, nursing an IPA. She was 31, sharp-eyed, with short, dark hair and the kind of focus that made people uncomfortable. So, she said as I sat down, how bad is it? I told her about the email, the withdrawal, the charges. She listened without interrupting, which was one of the things I liked about her. "You want me to dig?" she asked. "Can you? I can find out where she's been, who she's been with, where she's going, but it's not cheap." "How much?" "For you, free, but you owe me." I ordered a beer and waited. Lila pulled out her laptop. "Give me her phone number and email." I did. She typed for a minute, then turned the screen toward me. "She's been texting someone named Simon. A lot. Here's a sample." The messages were exactly what you'd expect. "Miss you. Can't wait. Thursday night. Bring the red dress." "Who's Simon?" Lila asked. "No idea." She typed some more. "Simon Hale, 36, works in corporate consulting, went to Yale, lives in Westport, and wait, yeah, here we go. He and Caroline went to college together." "Ex-boyfriend?" "Looks like it. He's got a LinkedIn full of humble brag posts, lots of travel pics, divorced 2 years ago." I felt something cold settle in my chest, not anger exactly, more like clarity. "Where are they going?" I asked. Lila typed. "She booked a flight to Miami Thursday night. Round trip, return Sunday. Hotel's a boutique place in South Beach, $1,700 a night." "She can't afford that." "He can." I drank my beer and thought about it. Caroline wasn't just cheating. She was planning an exit. The apartment email, the cash withdrawal, the luggage. It was all part of a story she'd already written. One where I was the chump who didn't see it coming. "What are you thinking?" Lila asked. "I'm thinking she just made a mistake." "What kind of mistake?" "The kind where she assumes I'll roll over." Lila smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. "You want me to keep digging?" "Yeah," I said. "I want to know everything. Where they go, what they do, who they see. I want to know what they eat for breakfast." "You're going to burn her, aren't you?" "Worse," I said. "I'm going to make her wish she'd been honest." By Wednesday night I had a plan. Not a perfect plan, but a good one. The kind that would hold up in court if it came to that. First, the apartment. Uncle Rick's lawyer had already filed the eviction notice. Caroline had 72 hours to vacate. By law, she could fight it, but that would require a lawyer, and lawyers cost money she didn't have anymore. Second, the money. I'd frozen our joint accounts that morning. Technically, I couldn't touch her personal account, but I didn't need to. She'd been living off our shared funds for months. Without access, she was stranded. Third, Simon. Lila had done some digging. Simon's consulting business was built on reputation. 1 or 2 bad reviews, a few well-placed rumors, and his client list would dry up fast. I wasn't going to destroy him, not yet, but I was going to make him sweat. Fourth, surveillance. I'd installed a GPS tracker on Caroline's car Tuesday night. Nothing illegal. I was still on the title. It was feeding data to an app on my phone. I could see exactly where she went, how long she stayed, who she met. And finally, patience. Caroline thought she was in control. She thought I was the boring IT guy who'd take the hint and disappear. She had no idea I'd been studying contract law for 2 years. She had no idea I knew people like Lila. She had no idea I was 3 steps ahead. Wednesday night, I followed her to a bar in New Haven. She met Simon outside. He kissed her like they were in a movie. I took pictures from across the street. They went inside. I waited 30 minutes, then followed. The place was crowded, loud. I found a spot at the bar where I could see their table. They were laughing, holding hands. Simon ordered a bottle of wine. Caroline leaned in close, whispering something that made him grin. I ordered a whiskey and watched. At one point, Caroline got up to use the bathroom. Simon pulled out his phone and started texting. I couldn't see what he was writing, but his expression said enough. Smug, confident, like a man who thought he'd won something. When Caroline came back, she handed him a small wrapped box. He opened it. Cufflinks. He kissed her hand. I finished my drink and left. Outside, I called Lila. Got something for me? She asked. Yeah, I said. I need you to send an anonymous email to Simon's 3 biggest clients. Nothing specific. Just a tip that he's been misrepresenting his credentials. That true? Does it matter? She laughed. I'll do it tonight. Thanks. I hung up and stood there for a minute, watching the bar entrance. They were still inside, still laughing, still thinking they'd gotten away with it. But the trap was already closing. Thursday morning, Caroline's call went straight to voicemail, just as I planned. Buckley, what the hell? The bank says our accounts are frozen. Call me back. I let the message linger on my phone for a few moments before I deleted it. She called again an hour later, but I let it ring, feeling oddly detached, even as my phone buzzed with her name. She was no longer my problem. The sound of her voice didn't stir the old emotions it once did. Not anymore. By noon, the messages kept coming. The last one was different, less demanding and more pleading. She'd started to panic. Buckley, please. I need to talk to you. This isn't funny. I stared at my phone, taking a moment to digest the change in her tone. Then I texted back, respect my space. That felt final, efficient. I didn't even wait for her reply before I blocked her number. It was done. Lila called around 2 p.m. Simon just got a call from one of his clients. They're pulling a contract, $50,000. Good, I said, my voice cool, calm, and satisfied. You want me to keep going? She asked, a slight edge in her voice, but I could tell she was enjoying this as much as I was. Yeah, but slowly. I don't want him panicking yet. You're enjoying this. I'm being thorough. Lila laughed, but it wasn't lighthearted. It was sharp, understanding exactly what I was doing. Same thing. That afternoon I went to the apartment. Caroline wasn't home, but I had already planned this moment down to the smallest detail. I packed up my things, clothes, books, my desktop computer. It took 3 trips to load everything into my car. The heavy weight of finality settled over me as I worked. Before I left, I did a walkthrough. The apartment was eerily the same. Caroline's makeup on the bathroom counter, her shoes scattered by the door, a framed photo of us from our honeymoon in Vermont on the bookshelf. I took the photo off the shelf, looked at it for a second, and then threw it in the trash. The memory of our honeymoon, once a symbol of happiness, had become nothing more than a reminder of a life that no longer existed. Then I locked the door and left the key on the kitchen counter, signaling an end to that chapter. Uncle Rick's property in Woodbridge turned out to be a surprise. 2nd floor, 2 bedrooms, hardwood floors. I unloaded my things into the spare room and set up my computer. It wasn't a home yet, but it would do for now. Once settled, I opened my laptop and checked the GPS tracker. Caroline's car was at Simon's place in Westport. I pulled up Street View and studied the house. It was a grand, colonial-style home, 2 stories, probably worth $1 million. A large driveway, a 3-car garage. The kind of place that screamed success. The kind of place where people assumed they had everything figured out. I smiled to myself. Simon thought he was winning. He thought Caroline was his prize. But he had no idea he was about to lose everything. Friday morning, I decided to follow them to the airport. I had to be discreet. Everything was about precision, not making waves. Caroline's car was still parked at Simon's house, so they were using his Audi, a sleek silver model, expensive and clean. I stayed 3 cars back, maintaining a careful distance as they drove to the airport. They parked in long-term parking and walked to the terminal, hands clasped together. I parked nearby and followed on foot. Inside, I watched them check in at the counter. Caroline wore the red dress Simon had mentioned in his texts. She looked happy. She looked excited. I bought a coffee and sat near their gate, keeping an eye on them without being noticed. They didn't notice me. Why would they? I was just another traveler, scrolling through my phone, minding my business. Their flight boarded at 10 a.m. I watched them disappear down the jetway, then immediately called Lila. They're in the air, I said, my voice steady, devoid of emotion. Good. I've got the hotel info. Want me to call ahead and make things interesting? Not yet. Let them have their weekend. I want them relaxed, I replied. Let them think everything is still normal. You're cold, Buckley. I'm practical. I hung up and walked back to my car. In the parking lot, I stopped by Simon's Audi. I didn't key it. That would have been too obvious. Instead, I unscrewed the cap on his rear passenger tire and let the air out slowly. Not flat, just low enough to trigger the sensor. It was a small inconvenience, but inconveniences add up. Over time, they'll start to build up, causing frustration, confusion, and eventually, mistakes. Saturday, I spent the day studying for my contract's final. The law fascinated me in a way that IT never had. The cases, the precedents, the loopholes, it was all a puzzle, and I was good at puzzles. Around 7 p.m., Lila texted me. They're at dinner, place called Ocean Prime. He just ordered a $200 bottle of wine. I texted back, let me know when they leave. An hour later, heading back to hotel. I closed my textbook and opened my laptop. Simon's business website was clean, professional. Client testimonials, case studies, a blog full of corporate buzzwords. I read through his LinkedIn. 43 recommendations, 200 connections. It was all a facade, a house of cards waiting to collapse. I opened a burner email account and drafted a message. To whom it may concern, I worked with Simon Hale on a consulting project last year. He misrepresented his qualifications and delivered subpar results. I'm sharing this anonymously because I don't want retaliation, but I thought you should know. I sent it to 5 of his clients. I wasn't malicious. I was simply being strategic. Let them ask questions. Let them find out who Simon really was. Then I logged out and went to bed. Sunday morning, Lila called. They're checking out early, she said. Flight leaves at noon. Why early? Simon got a call, sounded heated. He's been on the phone for 20 minutes. I felt a warm sensation spread through my chest. Not quite satisfaction, but something close to it. It felt good to see them rattled, especially when I hadn't even made my final move yet. Keep watching, I said. I spent the morning at a coffee shop near the airport. Around 1 p.m., Lila texted, They just landed. She looks pissed. He looks worse. I drove to Westport and parked down the street from Simon's house. They arrived 30 minutes later. Even from a distance, I could see the tension. Caroline got out of the car first, slamming the door. Simon followed, carrying both suitcases. They went inside. I waited. 20 minutes later, Caroline came out alone. She got in her car and drove away. I followed her. She went to a friend's house in Milford, stayed for 2 hours. When she came out, her eyes were red. I didn't follow her home. I already knew where she'd go. Instead, I drove back to Westbridge and checked my email. Uncle Rick's lawyer had sent the final eviction notice. Caroline had until Tuesday morning to vacate. I forwarded the email to her personal account. Then I poured myself a drink and waited for her to call. This was just the beginning. Every move I made was designed to unsettle Caroline and Simon without tipping them off. I was closing in, piece by piece, and they had no idea what was coming next. She didn't call. She showed up. Monday night, 9 p.m. I was reviewing case law when someone knocked on my door. I checked the peephole. Caroline. I opened the door but didn't invite her in. What do you want? I asked. What do I want? Her voice was sharp. You froze our accounts. You kicked me out of the apartment. What the hell, Buckley? I didn't kick you out. Uncle Rick did. Lease violation. Bullshit. You put him up to it. I shrugged. You said you were keeping the apartment. I didn't think you'd need my help. Her jaw tightened. This is insane. We need to talk. We are talking. I mean, really talk. About us. There is no us, I said. You made that clear. Buckley. Go home, Caroline. I don't have a home. You took it. You gave it up when you started sleeping with Simon. Her face went pale. For a second, she looked like she might deny it. Then she just stared at me. "How long have you known?" she asked. "Long enough." "Why didn't you say something? Why didn't you?" She looked away. "It's not what you think." "It never is." "Buckley, please, can we just—" "No," I said. "We can't. You made your choice. Now live with it." I closed the door. She stood outside for another minute, then left. I watched from the window as she got in her car and drove away. Then I called Lila. "She just showed up," I said. "What did she say?" "Doesn't matter. She's desperate. That's what matters." "What's next?" "Simon," I said. "Time to turn up the heat." Tuesday morning, I sent another anonymous email, this time to Simon's ex-wife. "Thought you should know Simon's been using marital assets to fund his new relationship. Hotel in Miami, expensive dinners, gifts. Might want to talk to your lawyer." I didn't know if it was true, but I knew it would make her ask questions, and questions led to lawyers, and lawyers led to expensive problems. By noon, Simon had received cancellation notices from 2 more clients. Lila texted me, "He's freaking out. Just fired his assistant." I texted back, "Good. Keep the pressure on." That afternoon, I drove to New Haven and parked outside Caroline's office. She worked on the 3rd floor of a glass building downtown. Pharmaceutical sales, big commissions, bigger egos. I waited until 5:30. Employees started trickling out. Caroline appeared around 6, walking with a coworker. They talked for a minute, then went separate ways. I followed Caroline to a parking garage. She got in her car. I got in mine. She drove to Simon's house. I parked down the street and watched. She went inside. Lights came on. I could see shadows moving behind the curtains. I waited an hour, then drove back to Woodbridge. At home, I opened my laptop and drafted divorce papers. I'd learned enough in law school to handle the basics. Irreconcilable differences. No fault. Split assets down the middle, minus the apartment and the joint account. I printed the papers and put them in an envelope. Tomorrow, I'd have them delivered. Wednesday morning, Caroline called from a number I didn't recognize. I answered. "Buckley, we need to talk," she said. "In person." "About what?" "About everything. Please, just give me an hour." I thought about it. "Fine, meet me at Brew 30 at 7. "Okay, thank you." I hung up and called Lila. "She wants to meet," I said. "You going?" "Yeah, but I want you there, in the background, just in case." "In case of what?" "In case she tries something stupid." Lila laughed. "You really think she'd do that?" "I think desperate people do desperate things." "Fair enough. I'll be there." Brew 30 was half empty when I arrived. I took a table near the back where I could see the entrance. Lila was at the bar, nursing a beer. Caroline showed up 10 minutes late. She looked tired, hair pulled back, no makeup, dark circles under her eyes. She sat down across from me. "Thanks for meeting me," she said. "You said an hour. Clock's ticking." She flinched. "Buckley, I'm sorry. I know I screwed up. I know I hurt you. But what you're doing, it's too much." "What am I doing?" "You froze the accounts. You kicked me out. You're ruining Simon's business." "I'm not ruining anything. I'm just letting consequences happen." "That's not fair." "Fair?" I leaned forward. "You cheated on me. You lied to me. You planned a vacation with another man using our money. And now you want to talk about fair?" She looked down. "I didn't plan this. It just happened." "Nothing just happens, Caroline. You made choices. Now deal with them." "I don't have anywhere to go." "Stay with Simon. He's got a nice place." "He's not. It's complicated." "Then uncomplicate it." She looked up, eyes wet. "Buckley, please. I made a mistake. Can't we just—" "No." I stood up and dropped the envelope on the table. "Divorce papers," I said. "Sign them." "Buckley. Sign them or I'll make this even worse." I walked out. Lila followed me to the parking lot. "That was cold," she said. "That was necessary." "You okay?" "Yeah," I said. "I'm fine." But I wasn't. Not really. I drove home and poured myself a drink. Then I sat in the dark and waited for the next move. Thursday morning, Simon called me. I didn't recognize the number, but I answered anyway. Buckley Mercer? His voice was smooth, controlled. The voice of a man used to getting his way. Speaking. This is Simon Hale. I think we need to talk. About what? About Caroline. About you. About this situation. There's no situation, I said. There's just consequences. Listen, I know you're upset, but what you're doing, the emails, the accounts, the eviction, it's harassment. It's legal. It's petty. Call it what you want. I'm done talking. I hung up. He called back. I declined. He called again. I blocked the number. Lila texted. Simon just posted on LinkedIn. Damage control. Says anonymous sources are spreading lies about him. I texted back. Let him spin. Nobody believes damage control. That afternoon I got an email from Caroline's lawyer. A real lawyer this time. The email was polite, but firm. Stop the harassment. Return the funds. Let's settle this like adults. I forwarded it to Uncle Rick's lawyer with a note. Handle this. Then I went to class. Friday night, there was a corporate event at Caroline's office. Some kind of quarterly celebration. Open bar, speeches, awards. I knew about it because Caroline had mentioned it weeks ago, back when we were still pretending to be married. I wasn't invited, but I went anyway. The event was at a hotel in downtown New Haven. I wore a suit, walked in like I belonged, grabbed a drink from the bar. Caroline was near the stage, talking to her boss. She looked better than she had at Brew 30. Hair done, makeup perfect, fake smile in place. I stayed near the back and watched. Her boss gave a speech about quarterly numbers. Someone from HR handed out awards. Caroline got one for top sales. She went on stage, shook hands, posed for a photo. Then she saw me. Her smile faltered. Just for a second. But I saw it. I raised my glass. She looked away. After the speeches, people mingled. I moved through the crowd, shaking hands, introducing myself. Just another consultant. Nobody asked questions. I found Caroline near the bar. Buckley, she said. What are you doing here? Celebrating, I said. Congrats on the award. You need to leave. It's a public event. It's a work event. Same thing. Her jaw tightened. What do you want? Just wanted to see how you're doing. I'm fine. You look fine. Simon treating you well? Her face went red. Buckley, stop. Stop what? This. Whatever you're doing, just stop. I'm not doing anything, I said. I'm just living my life. You should try it. I walked away. Behind me, I heard her say something to a coworker, something about her ex being unstable. The coworker laughed nervously. I finished my drink and left. Outside, I called Lila. How'd it go? She asked. She's rattled, I said. Good. What's next? Simon's business. Time to finish that. You sure? Yeah. He's already lost 3 clients, 2 more and he's done. I'll send the emails tonight. Thanks. I hung up and drove home. By midnight, Simon had lost 2 more clients. By morning, his LinkedIn profile had gone dark. Saturday morning, Caroline called me from yet another new number. Buckley, please, we need to stop this. Stop what? You know what? Simon's business is falling apart. I can't pay rent. My lawyer says you're violating the separation agreement. We don't have a separation agreement. Then what do we have? Nothing, I said. We have nothing. She was quiet for a moment. I'm leaving town. I just wanted you to know. Where to? Does it matter? Not really. Buckley. Good luck, Caroline. I hung up. Then I called Lila. She's running, I said. Where? No idea. Can you find out? Give me an hour. Lila called back 50 minutes later. She booked a flight to Boston. Leaves at 3. She's going to her sister's place. Simon going with her? No. He's staying here. Probably trying to salvage his business. Good. Let her run. I'm not following. You sure? Yeah. She's not worth the gas. but I didn't mean it. Because even though I said I was done, part of me wanted to see her face when she realized there was no escape. I drove to the airport. I got there at 2:30, found her gate, bought a coffee and sat where I could see her. She showed up at 2:40, dragging a suitcase. Her hair was pulled back, no makeup. She looked exhausted. I waited until she checked in at the desk, then I stood and walked over. "Caroline," I said. She turned. Her face went white. "What are you doing here?" she asked. "Flying to Boston," I lied. "Bullshit. Believe what you want." Her hands were shaking. "Buckley, why are you doing this?" "I'm not doing anything, just happened to be here." "You're following me. Paranoia's not a good look." She stepped closer. "This has to stop. You've made your point. I get it. I screwed up, but this is insane." "What's insane?" I said. "Is thinking you could lie to me and get away with it." "I didn't." "Yes, you did. You lied about Simon. You lied about the money. You lied about everything." Her eyes filled with tears. "Buckley, please. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." "Sorry doesn't cut it." "Then what does?" I leaned in close. "Nothing. There's nothing you can do. You burned the bridge. Now you get to live on the other side." I walked away. Behind me, I heard her say my name, but I didn't turn around. I left the airport and drove to Simon's house. He was outside, loading boxes into his car. I parked across the street and watched. He looked like hell. Unshaven, wrinkled clothes, moving like a man who hadn't slept in days. I got out of my car and walked over. "Simon," I said. He looked up. "What do you want?" "Just wanted to see how you're doing." "I'm fine." "Doesn't look fine." He straightened. "You need to leave. It's a public street. You're harassing me." "I'm standing here. That's not harassment." He stepped closer. "I know what you've been doing. The emails, the clients, the lies. You think I don't know?" "I think you're paranoid. I think you're a psycho." I smiled. "Careful, Simon. Defamation's a real thing." His jaw tightened. "Get out of here before I call the cops." "Go ahead. Tell them your girlfriend's husband stopped by to say hi. See how that goes." He looked like he wanted to hit me, but he didn't, because deep down, he knew he'd already lost. I got in my car and drove away. Sunday morning, I woke up to a text from Lila. "Check Caroline's Instagram." I opened the app. Caroline's account was set to public. Her latest post was from last night, a photo of her and Simon at his house. Caption, "Starting fresh." The comments were brutal. "Isn't she married? Who's the guy? Homewrecker vibes." I scrolled through. Someone had tagged Caroline's friends, her co-workers, her family. Lila texted again. "She didn't mean to post it. Wrong account. She deleted it, but people screenshotted." I texted back. "Perfect." By noon, the post had spread. Caroline's boss called her. Her friends called her. Her mother called her. Lila texted, "She's in full meltdown mode." I didn't respond. I just sat there, watching the pieces fall. That afternoon, I drove to the Airbnb Caroline and Simon had rented. She'd posted the address in a now-deleted Instagram story. It was a small place in Brantford, right on the water. I parked down the street and waited. They showed up around 5, Simon's car, both of them inside. They looked like they'd been arguing. They went inside. I waited 30 minutes, then walked up to the door and knocked. Caroline answered. Her face went pale. "Buckley," she said. "Hey." Simon appeared behind her. "You need to leave." "I will," I said. "Just wanted to drop something off." I handed Caroline an envelope. "Divorce papers. Signed on my end. Just need your signature." She stared at the envelope like it might bite her. "You've made your point," she said. "Can you just—" "Sign them," I said, "or I'll file contested and drag this out for years." "You're unbelievable. I'm practical. There's a difference." Simon stepped forward. "She doesn't have to do anything. Get out." I ignored him. "Caroline, sign the papers. Walk away. Start fresh, like your Instagram said. Her hands were shaking. I can't believe you're doing this. I can't believe you thought I wouldn't. She took the envelope. Fine, I'll sign them. Good. Drop them in the mail tomorrow. I turned to leave. Buckley, she said. I stopped. I really am sorry, she said. I looked at her, at Simon, at the rented Airbnb, and the fake fresh start. I'm not, I said. I walked back to my car and drove away. Monday morning, I woke up to an email. Caroline had signed the papers and sent them overnight. They'd be official in 30 days. I opened my laptop and checked the joint account. Empty. The apartment was cleared out. Simon's business was in ruins. Caroline's reputation was shredded. Everything I'd planned had worked. I should have felt satisfied, victorious. But I didn't. I just felt tired. I made coffee and sat at my desk. Outside, the sun was coming up. The world was moving on. And so was I. No doors open, no lies left, no takebacks. I closed the laptop and didn't look back.